What are the expectations for the launch roster size?
So the roster size actually if we're talking about at launch, then the roster size will be over 250 unique fighters. And if we add fighters that are in all the different weight classes and we add, alter egos as we discussed in the presentation earlier, we're going to be 300 plus at launch. But beyond that, there will be alter egos obviously being added, monthly, as well as new licensed fighters in the UFC based on what their trajectory looks like in the real world. So it won't actually be a locked roster. We will be continually adding to that roster every month post-launch during the duration of the life cycle of UFC 5.
Okay, and yeah, I guess kind of based off the look of them, is there like going to be variations of different athletes kind of going off the alter egos things? Like like a Cheeto Vera shows up with like a different facial hair or haircut every single fight, or same with like Connor, bald Connor, hair Connor. Is there going to be ability to kind of diversify, or is it just going to be a singular model outside of the alter egos?
It's going to be different models. So each alter ego will have its own version. It'll be very authentic to the way that they looked, that from the era or event that they're based off of. But that doesn't mean that we're always going to stick to authentic representations of the past as well. We there are future plans, or like we have the origins that we had on that we showed to you that are a bit more of outside of the world of UFC. So that's what we hope on adding in the future as well.
Yeah, and then as
Okay.
far as what you mentioned with like the actual the original fighter itself, so separate from the alter egos, if there's a pretty significant change in that fighter, so if somebody gets like another fairly large noticeable tattoo, or if somebody goes from having a full head of hair to shaving it off, although I hope they don't, because then we won't be able to show off strand-based hair. But
Sure.
if that were to happen, we will make those updates to stay true to the real world on the original fighter.
This is one I got probably the most. I think I know the answer already, but will there be a PC version?
There will not be a PC version of UFC 5.
Okay. Will there be crossplay for online?
There will not be crossplay for online. With the focus on Frostbite for UFC 5 and the additions and upgrades we've been able to make with that technological leap, that was our dev team's main focus for the title. So yeah, crossplay will not be in UFC 5.
Will there be any fouls involved? Low blows, eye pokes, etc.
There are no fouls in UFC 5.
Cool. Good to know. And just kind of more expansion on the ground game. I know you guys displayed a little bit of the new submission system, but in terms of like ground play outside of that, what's kind of being expanded on, evolved, changed?
60 frames is going to change the way anyone's going to pick up and play the controller. We're 60 frames because of Frostbite, and the ground game is essentially much more smoother and much more reactive, and users can put in their inputs a lot more faster this year. So just because of that change alone, you're going to see the ground game be a lot faster, a lot more intense. You can transition to ground and pound a lot faster. We've added elbows in ground and pound this year. And of course, our real damage system is going to play a significant impact on the ground game itself, just because of these elbows' ability to cut, or rounded strikes or hooks, ability to cut the side of your face. You're essentially it's going to be a different way to play the ground game. You do not want to get hit this year on the ground or on the feet. So it's going to be a lot quicker. And then with seamless submissions, the transition into submissions, it's going to be clean, right? It's going to just be an extension of the ground game. So there's no more mini game in front that's going to pop up over your fighters. It's essentially just going to be the same HUDs, and submissions are going to flow within one another. There's going to be transitions, reversals, sweeps, all of it, you name it, inside the submission. So it's a lot more smoother.
What about on like the striking side in terms of like the evolution there? I know people are asking maybe are parries going to be like something that comes back into play? What would you say is like maybe some of the marquee changes in the striking element?
So we've added all new strikes and new hit reactions this year. So um, the game features new animations again for ground and pound elbows, but there's also spinning attacks and body punches and calf kicks. The calf kicks are interesting because now you can have a normal leg kick, but then if you hold the input, you'll throw a calf kick. And so we've also added hold inputs as well for power punches. So again, you can throw your hook, but if you hold the hook input, you'll throw an overhand. Same with a question mark kick is if it'll be the same input as your roundhouse kick, but if you hold it, you'll throw a question mark kick.
Mm.
So there's a lot of little nuances and little mechanics we've added to the stand-up game. And then spinning strikes is a big part of that as well. So if you miss a roundhouse kick this year, you'll actually turn your body and you can now combine that into a spinning back fist.
Mm.
So there's a lot of little nuances that our users will find out that have changed with the striking mechanics.
How is the clinch changed? And I think people also want to know like some things when it comes to like body knee to the elbow combination that I know a lot of people had trouble with last year. What would you say about kind of those two things?
The body knee elbow combination is an interesting one. It's something that we've seen in UFC 4 quite a bit. Um, Glad to say we've looked at it, we fixed it as best as we think we can. But again, in our internal competitive testing, we think we fixed it. But then again, we'll see what happens when we go live. It's always interesting to see what the new meta is when we go live.
Kind of the clinch mechanics.
Right. So the clinch mechanics, again, with the new damage system, you do not want to get hit this year. So I think last year, well, at least on UFC 4, the whole gameplay meta was essentially you fish for hit reactions and you fish for knockdown. You didn't really care how much damage you sustained, or it didn't really matter too much how much you got hit, as long as your damage meter was somewhat recoverable. This year on UFC 5, with our real impact system, you do not want to get hit. Elbows will cut you and it'll change the meta of the game. If you get cut over your eyebrow, it's going to essentially affects your vision. But in terms of the meta of gameplay, it's going to cause you to be more vulnerable on the side you're cut on because essentially your fighter can't see, right? They're getting hit with rounded strikes like a roundhouse or a hook. Your fighter is going to have a harder time bringing up their hand to block. So it's going to affect their speed of their block coming up. That's the whole new mechanic of striking this year in our damage system.
How do you guys go approach? I know it's kind of like a fundamental thing, the balance between, I guess, realism and kind of arcade game to make it, actually like feeling the full experience of a fight, but keeping it grounded in reality too.
Yeah, so what we've added this year, and we didn't really get to talk about it in our deck, was we've added game styles this year. So what game styles allow you to do is essentially pick the way you want to play anywhere you want to play. Game styles, you can apply them in career mode. You can search for them in quick match online. You can apply them in any fight now mode, tournament mode, anywhere you want in the game, essentially, except for competitive modes. You can apply any game style. And what these game styles are, it's like a predefined set of gameplay sliders. So there's a stand and bang game style, which disables ground game and allows you to stand up and strike. You can apply that into career mode. So now you can have a stand and bang only career mode where you can climb the ranks of the UFC without worrying about getting taken down in the fight. Or there's a knockout game style for our casual users who just want to go in the game and essentially have their health meter just fall to zero, and then there's going to be a knockout by the end of it. Or there's a simulation game style. If you're a core user, a hardcore user, a big fan of MMA, and you want a true to life experience as real as it gets, there's a simulation game style that you can apply to any mode in the game, and it will be much harder stamina, much more real impact damage. You basically do not want to get hit at all in that mode, and it's real time, real clock as well.
What about how the fights are judged? Has there been like any adjustments to the system of how that's done? And people are wondering if fights can end in a draw this year.
That's a good one. Yes, fights can end in a draw this year. There are the judges can score 10-9, 10-9, and then an 8-10 to consider a draw, or score 10-10, 10-10 round. So we've added that this year as well.
People are wondering if they're going to be able to see like the scorecards either in tournament mode, if that's still in there, or online mode.
Yes, we've also added judges' scorecards as well in the post fight. So you can scroll over, see your round by round breakdown, and then you'll also see each judge and how they scored each round, just like you see scorecards in real life.
Will there be the ability to do, combined weight classes in like online private matches like that, as opposed to, just a singular weight class if you're, just playing directly with a friend or something?
I know offline for sure, yes, there's open weight classes that you can have any fighter versus any fighter. I will have to get back to you on the online part. We'll get back to you on the online part of that.
One that I got a lot was, is there any chance of a return of Pride mode?
Pride mode is not in UFC 5.
Okay.
But we are always talking about where we can take things with the product, whether it's for things that we want to do as part of our post-launch plans or what we would potentially be doing for future iterations of the title. But for launch specifically, there is no Pride specific mode in the game.
Towards maybe doing, like, people kept calling it like a Dana White mode or like a My GM or something like that, where you maybe like oversee the UFC as a whole. Has that ever been thought about?
We're always looking at opportunities and trying to listen to the community on what ideas are resonating with them, and we take all of those inputs and try to make the most informed decisions as we can to try to appeal to the broadest audience we can. So yeah, we take those ideas as well as a plethora of others that we get from the community and our design council, and then we talk through those and figure out what's next.
As far as like online, people are wondering if like the online world championships, if there's going to be an adjustment to kind of the format when you go in and you get the two weight classes on the timer or something like that. Is it going to be similar, or is there been any changes made to that?
Yeah, there's a lot more freedom this year with online career and the CAF versus CAF sort of meta game. We wanted to open that up to players. So you'll have 4 divisions that you can create a created fighter in. Those are combined divisions for that mode. 3 men's divisions and 1 women's. And so there'll be a progression system that we're borrowing from career mode that's featured there. So you'll earn fighter evolution points, have to sort of progress your fighter, grow them, choose the perks and attributes that you want. But to go back to your original question, yeah, there's a lot more freedom in online career.
And this is one I got a lot. Will there be a return of voice chat in online?
There will not be a return of voice chat, unfortunately, no.
Any more things you can kind of share that came outside of the deck? People are wondering about, like, is there going to be pre-fight press conference animations, in-cage interview things like that maybe we didn't see last year?
Players are they're gonna be seeing an all-new introduction to career mode. So Valentina Shevchenko is gonna welcome the player along with Coach Davis, and they're gonna guide the player through their UFC career. There's gonna be new cinematics, new locations, and then the refined focus on onboarding. We're also updating training camp, right? So letting players simulate the training camp and sparring drills to reach peak fitness just to get to the fight faster, because we know that training camp can really bog you down, especially when you're doing a 40-fight career multiple times. And then lastly, the challenge packs are going to make a difference in your career mode as well. So once you finish a challenge pack, you can you'll get a grade for it. So you might get a B or you might get an A, and then you can simulate to that grade every single time you run into that challenge. And essentially what that'll give you is fitness. It'll give you evolution points to buy more moves, perks, attributes. And along with that, like, we've added a lot more stuff. Like there's in-game, there's fan social media challenges where fans are going to ask you to do certain things in a fight, and it's up to you to accept it or not. And if you accept it, you'll get more hype and more fans for your upcoming fights. But if you decline it, you're going to have a pissed off fan that's going to reply to you and say, "Hey, you didn't do the thing I wanted you to do," and whatever. Sorry. And then there's also new sponsorship in career mode. So there's Prime Hydration, Toyo Tires, ESPN Plus, Venom. They're all sponsors that will try to get you to sign on to them, and that again will give you more social media opportunities to do more things. But again, the more time you spend on social media, the less time you have training, and then that will affect your upcoming fight as well. We've also added these game styles, right, to career mode, and that's going to change the way you're going to play career mode. So if you do want to play a career mode that's fully stand and bang, you have that opportunity this year. And then you can also play simulation career mode for our much more fan immersed UFC players who want to play a very simulation career mode. That doesn't mean it has to be hard either. You can play a very easy AI career with a simulation game style as well. So it's up to you on how you want to play.